This game just did nothing but remind me that I'm just never gonna last in the military. Hey guys, Dave here with a video game review of a genre that I don't particularly play, let alone review. But this should make for an interesting review, and I'm awaiting the comments on this one. And it's for none other than Battlefield 3, one of the more attention-grabbing games of this generation. Like, when you think of this generation with the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, I think Battlefield 3 will go down as one of those games that it's not one of the best games, but it's one of the games that people bring up an awful lot when it comes to what these systems were able to do. And because it was free on the PlayStation Network, I went ahead and I downloaded it and I played it to see what all the buzz is about, especially in the wake of the release for Battlefield 4. And now here's my review. Single player campaign. The plot: stop terrorists. Much like the rest of military first-person shooters these days. However, I gotta be honest, I kind of enjoy the campaign, albeit it's quite short, which is what I was totally expecting it to be, especially with all these military shooters that all of their focus is derived on the multiplayer, not only for the developers, but also for the gamers. Because of the gamers. The gamers say, we're more interested in the multiplayer, so that's what the developers have been focusing more on. And because of that, single-player campaign is almost non-existent at this point. This is something for you to do when the servers are down. But I liked it. I thought that the story was pretty interesting. Not necessarily to be translated into a movie, but let's just say that it made for what I thought could have been a really interesting episode on CSI or Flashpoint or those kinds of shows. With some really good voice work and some really beautiful imagery in some of the cutscenes. Especially going back to the voice work, I thought everybody did a great job. The guy who did Blackburn, the guys who did the CIA agents that are interrogating you, especially one guy in particular who I instantly recognized when he started to speak. They even went ahead and modeled his character to look just like the voice actor, Glenn Marshauer. And if you guys don't know him by name, you obviously recognized his voice when you play the game. It's the guy from Transformers who apparently is some kind of immortal because he was supposed to be dead from the first movie, but somehow appeared in the second one, and then he appeared in the third one. Apparently Michael Bay enjoyed working with him, so he just brought him back from the dead randomly. But I recognized his voice, and I thought that he did a really good job in this game. Were they great characters? No, because we hardly got to know him, and there's no development whatsoever. It's just the whole mystery as to what is going on with this terrorist plot, and having it cut to flashback and then forward, flashback and then forward. I thought it was really interesting. It kept me invested in the 6-hour campaign. But, you know, it's nothing special to write home about. But like I said, this game had some beautiful cutscenes as well as beautiful visuals for the entirety of the game, even during gameplay. People often regard this game as being one of the best looking games on this current generation that we're about to leave. Oh my god. And rightfully so. It uses the acclaimed Frostbite 2 engine that is kind of inferior now because of the release of the Frostbite 3 engine with Battlefield 4. But it's still a great engine. Everything just feels realistic and just nice. All the elements. I mean, I'm not going to go into too much technical detail, but let's just say that it's just a really great looking game. But I will say that there's moments where I think it's just a little too good looking. Too realistically good looking. Because there's moments where the director, the creative director for this game, or possibly just the game director for this game in general, used particle effects in this game the same way that J.J. Abrams uses lens flares. There were several moments, not only in the cutscenes but also in the gameplay, where there's just specks in the air and they're on the camera, and I'm just like, dude, where's the button to wipe these things off my lens? Because damn it, I can't see. But the visual aspect of this game is still astonishing, as well as all the other technical aspects of this game, from the sound, especially the sound for the machine guns. I mean, especially when the bullets are just whizzing past you, it's great. And the voice work for some of the characters around are also pretty good. They feel real, they feel like real soldiers. Now, granted, I will say I was out of the loop, and this is why I'm not so invested with military first-person shooters. First-person shooters in general, sure, you know, like Borderlands. And hopefully soon I will finally play the BioShock series. I'm sorry, I haven't played it yet. I know, blasphemy, but I will. But when it comes to military shooters like Call of Duty or Battlefield, I'm just completely out of the loop, especially when characters are talking in that military jargon, which is one of the things that I feel a little hypocritical about when I say that I really enjoyed the story, because for the majority of the time I didn't know. Well, I caught the main point, the main gist of the story, but there were several moments where I'm like, what the hell did he just say? Because of all the military jargon, I just couldn't understand it. So when they used it in the gameplay and they say, go 5 clicks that way. I'm like, what the hell is a click? But thanks to some of the little markers as well as your heads-up display, I was able to go and navigate through the main campaign, and I had fun with it. You know, by the end of it, I'm like, okay, that was quite enjoyable, and now let's tackle multiplayer. I'm gonna go ahead and combine my opinion of the gameplay along with the multiplayer, because essentially it's kind of the same. And that is that when it comes to military shooters that are going for that realistic feel, you know, I always kind of suck, at least initially, because this game just did nothing but remind me that I'm just never gonna last in the military. Because despite having fun, I was having fun because it was a game and because I was able to respond. But there were moments where just a couple of bullets just took me out, and I'm not gonna say I got frustrated, because eventually I managed to get past it. I was able to like kill that particular character or soldier or enemy in the campaign. But when it came to the multiplayer, I was having fun because I knew that I was gonna suck, and I knew that I was gonna go up against all these experienced players. But the gameplay is refined. It's very, very well made. You know, you can tell that the developers put an awful lot of work into creating some of the more realistic physical mechanics when it comes to developing a military shooter, and that's essentially what the impression that I got from this game while playing it. Because when a character moves, you can kind of see the you know, you can feel the swish whenever they move the gun, and several things from the physics mechanics to how each gun works and what kind of gun is supposed to be used at that time, like what kind of rate of fire it's gonna execute and how heavy are the bullets, all that technical stuff. I understood that they were very refined. Now, do I have a solid knowledge on all of this stuff? Absolutely not. I don't know what each gun does. I'm just, like I said, along with the military jargon, I'm completely out of the loop. My best friend's boyfriend, you know, he gets all this stuff. He loves Battlefield, so I turned to him for advice when it came to playing this game, because there was just several things where I just didn't understand. Okay, what does this gun do? What does this particular, you know, package does? I don't know. I don't get it. Which is why whenever I jumped into multiplayer, I just hit X, deploy. I mean, going through all these classes, I'm pretty sure that any Battlefield, let alone military first-person shooter aficionado, would just love it. But for me, I'm just like, okay, go. I just want to play. That's it for me. And it also doesn't help that thanks to my best friend's boyfriend, he told me that there's actually a particular flaw that's actually kind of heavy. When I heard it, I'm like, that's kind of BS. And that is that apparently there's certain points where whenever a soldier shoots at you, the bullets manage to reach you before they even turn to actually aim at you. That sounds like a huge technical error on DICE's part. But it definitely feels like the AI in this game is somewhat cheating, because they got that ability because of that glitch in the wireframe of the gameplay for this game. And the last thing that I want to mention is that multiplayer comes with all the stuff that you would expect multiplayer to come with, all its various modes like capture the flag, conquest, team deathmatch, all the basic stuff. And it was fun. Granted, it still put me up against really highly ranked players that just annihilated me in a heartbeat. But still, I had fun, and an awful lot of the physics and mechanics that were in the single player campaign got carried over, and I can tell that the developers put an awful lot of thought into this game, despite that rather significant flaw that I think taints the gameplay somewhat. Now, I might be wrong, my best friend's boyfriend might be wrong, who knows, but you know, that's what he says. And if you guys know anything about this, please let me know so I don't go on looking like a fool in this video. But along with the competitive multiplayer, there's also co-op, and co-op has you doing different missions that are not exactly tied in with the campaign. You know, they're derived of any story. It's just a set of missions that you get to do with a friend. Now, granted, along with multiplayer, you require an EA account because this is an EA published game, and that's something that I always found frustrating about all the different online components when it comes to an EA game, that you need an EA account. And you know, that kind of kept me from doing certain things in this game, but I ended up getting one anyway, and so that way I get the full experience of this game, because I can't review this game without playing some of the online components. So I went ahead and did that, and the co-op is exactly like I told you. You know, all the gameplay elements are here, and you go through some of the missions with a friend. You guys already know, for the most part, how I feel about online co-op, where play it for a little while, but after a while I kind of burn off, because I rather have somebody literally by my side so that we can talk to each other and be like, okay, you take care of that guy, I'll take care of this guy. And that would just be a lot more enjoyable for me. Whereas online, I have no idea what the other person's thinking, so then they go off and do something, and I'm like, okay, wait, whoa, where did I go? So there you have it, a review of Battlefield 3 from a guy who just doesn't get military first-person shooters. I just thought I would review it because Battlefield is a big thing at the time, at this particular moment, especially from the transition from last gen to current to next gen with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and Battlefield 4 being one of those games that is not only available for the current gen but also for the next gen. I figured that Battlefield 3 would be a really relevant game to talk about. And coming from a guy who's just not a big grease head, I don't know what I know that grease head is for like cars and stuff, but for me, not being a huge fan of military first-person shooters, to be specific, I still had fun, but it's the kind of game, much like with the rest of military first-person shooters, that while I'm having fun playing the campaign, as well as going a few rounds, a couple of hours on the multiplayer, I'm not going to remember much of this game, and lo and behold, I ended up just deleting it right after so I can make space for other games. But still, it's a really well-made game with beautiful graphics and some defined gameplay that just doesn't necessarily appeal to me personally. So because of that, I'm just going to go ahead and give it a solid rating of an 8.4 out of 10, which is a B. And it's definitely a game that if you're a huge fan of military first-person shooters, I think this one will do you a little bit better service than the Call of Duty franchise, because Call of Duty, I've played those games, at least, well, not all of them, but a couple from the different developers, from Black Ops, from Treyarch, and Modern Warfare 2 with Infinity Ward, and I can definitely tell that they're starting to reach that point where all they're doing is just hitting copy and paste. Copy and paste. With this, you can kind of tell that they're going for some of the more redefined things, especially with Battlefield 4 bringing in that whole, even though I hear it's not particularly new, it's not a thing that they're doing for the first time, but the destruction of environments, all that kind of stuff, I can tell that these people pay attention to the players. And I definitely think it's a game for you guys, for those people that love military first-person shooters. So thank you guys for watching. Leave in the comments below whether or not I, as well as my best boyfriend, are correct about that whole flaw. And as always, take care. I'll see you guys in the next one.